I recently spoke about coconut oil and skincare in a video, and some people had questions about this because some of the things that I said sounded confusing. Or if you want something super cheap, dude, even a coconut oil or literal straight up vegetable oil will do the job. It'll break down the dirt, the makeup, the pollutants just like this. I want to break that down as well as break down the science of coconut oil. Is coconut oil actually horrible for your face? Is it ever okay or safe to use? And if it is, in what context or in what ways? I personally love helping people and solving problems, which is why I do the work that I do and have this YouTube channel. One of my core values is also growth, which means being open to constructive criticism and feedback and changing my mind when I learn new and updated things. I've spoken about coconut oil in the past, and most of this is still correct, but there's a few things that I realize people still have questions on. So I wanted to do some research, do some digging, learn a few new things myself, and talk about coconut oil in skin. So specifically, what makes an oil from a chemistry standpoint? Oils are really cool. They are non-polar, which is talking about their electrical charge. Yes, certain molecules have electrical charges, such as water, which is a polar molecule. A polar molecule can kind of be thought of as like a magnet. You have a positive and a negative side, which means they attract or repel different things. Oil is non-polar, meaning it doesn't have this magnetic electrical charge. This is also why oil and water repel each other. Have you noticed that when you mix them, they always try to separate out? In addition, oil does not have a pH. We talk about the pH scale all the time about how acidic or basic something is. Well, oils don't have that free hydrogen. They don't have the ability to become acidic or more basic. So even though oils have fatty acids in them, they are combined in a different way, and they aren't exactly an acid the way something like your AHAs or BHAs would be. And they're not more basic or alkaline like some of your soaps or bleaches would be. Oils can also be liquid or solid at room temperature. You've heard of healthy oils and unhealthy oils when it comes to consumption. Healthy oils are usually the monounsaturated or polyunsaturated fats, think of those omegas, whereas saturated fats or trans fats are usually the less healthy ones. Some oils, usually these unsaturated ones, are liquid at room temperature, whereas others, usually the saturated ones, are solid at room temperature. Now, of course, this depends on where you live and what room temperature is for you. But it's interesting because if you notice, coconut oil is one of the few plant-based oils that can actually be solid at room temperature. Your olive oil, your argan oil, your grapeseed oil, your walnut oil is not. So coconut oil is special for that reason and for a couple more. But before we get to why her body different, we have to talk about oils dissolving other oils. You see, in chemistry, like dissolves like, meaning water-based things are going to mix well and be soluble in other water-based things, and oils are going to mix well and combine with other oils. This is why oils are interesting in a skincare routine, specifically for cleansing. You see, most makeup has an oil base. That's why it sits and stays on the skin. That long-wearing foundation, or, you know, that one formula that just blends in and looks like a second skin. Sometimes the reason why is because of the oils that are built into that. This also means that if you want to effectively remove those cosmetics from your face, it makes sense to use an oil-based cleanser, whether it's an oil, whether it's a makeup removing balm, or whether it's a formula that has oil in it. Also, as you know, if you have a face, your skin naturally creates oil, and it's called sebum. Sebum is interesting because it's actually a mix of multiple things. It's cholesterol that our body produces, it's triglycerides, it's a whole bunch of different stuff. But again, if we're trying to remove that oil from the skin, if we use an oil cleanser, oil binds to oil, oil dissolves oil. Using something oil-based will help combine with that and remove it off more effectively. The catch is that once you've applied this oil to your skin to remove and break down makeup, dirt, sebum, etc., you have to wash that off with what? Water. But remember, water and oil repel each other. So if you try to remove that oil, it's going to stay greasy on the skin. This is why I always recommend following up oil cleansing with another basic cleanser. These basic cleansers have ingredients like surfactants that actually hold hands with both the oil and the water, allowing both of them to work together and to remove this oily residue off of your face. And again, even though I highly recommend using oil cleansers or straight up oils to remove makeup and cosmetics, I always say cleanse after because that oily, greasy feeling is not too good on the face. But what happens if you do leave oil on your face, specifically coconut oil? For example, if you didn't cleanse it off properly, or if you use coconut oil as a moisturizer. In order to talk about that, we have to talk about what is in coconut oil or what is in other oils. You see, just the way your cosmetics or your skincare products can have different ingredients inside of them, you can kind of think of oils as having different ingredients as well. There are different fatty acids that make up each type of oil. These could be things like lauric acid, myristic acid, oleic acid, etc. And so each oil that you use has its own special blend or its own profile of percentages of these different fatty acids, which is what makes coconut oil different than grapeseed oil or argan oil or olive oil or walnut. From a chemical standpoint, oils have fatty acids and triglycerides. Remember how acids have that OH group where the hydrogen can ionize off, which makes it super acidic? Oils do have those fatty acids, but because of the chain they are connected to, they're like a really long one, that's what makes them feel oily and greasy and fatty. What's specifically interesting about the oils that you buy from the store or put on your face is that they're usually bound in triglycerides. Tri means 3, and glyceride, think of glycerol. We're talking about that glycerol backbone. In an analogy to kind of visualize this, think of them as a braid. A braid has 3 different strands of hair, right? And it's when you combine them together that you get something new, which is a finished braid. A triglyceride is that braid of 3 fatty acids put together, whereas if you did separate them off of that backbone or separated them out, they would be called free fatty acids. Michelle Wong from Lab Muffin Beauty Science is an amazing human being for her intellect, for her chemistry knowledge, and for her beauty nerdy science talk, and she shared some interesting information about oils and skincare in one of her videos.
Soap makers also talk about oils in terms of the percentages of fatty acids contained in them, because the main step in soap making involves performing a chemical reaction with lye to break up the covalent bonds in the triglycerides to free the fatty acids. But plant oils contain very little free fatty acids. In general, you have less than 1% free fatty acids in the oil that haven't been either transformed into the triglyceride or have broken off the triglyceride. So when we put oils on our faces, we're applying very little free fatty acids.
So now we know what an oil is, and we kind of understand what makes one oil different from the other. But again, because all of these oils do have similarities, which ones are better than others, and is coconut oil horrible for you? When it comes to the makeup breakup power of oils, a lot of them are pretty comparable. Makeup breaking down and cleansing, great, but what about leaving it on the skin, such as a moisturizer? Dr. Dre is someone who I watch, respect, and admire learning from, and she's even said that coconut oil may be superior to mineral oil.
Coconut oil is an option as an emollient. It's not fantastic at decreasing transepidermal water loss and really keeping the skin hydrated, but it can definitely soften the skin and works just as well as mineral oil by itself.
Coconut oil is not a good hydrator, and let's talk about why that is. In order to do so, we have to talk about what is a hydrator versus what is a moisturizer. We've done a full video on this, but hydration adds water, specifically having water or hydration penetrate into those deeper layers, whereas moisturizing could mean just creating a barrier on top of the skin, or it could mean creating that barrier but also imparting hydration. The reason why barriers are important is because you don't want any of the hydration or the helpful stuff inside of your skin to escape. And when it does, that's what's called transepidermal water loss. Trans meaning across, epidermal talking about the top layer of the skin, and water loss literally means that hydration escaping the skin, which is why we use a moisturizer to lock it in and keep it where it should be. Now remember, oil is non-polar, meaning it doesn't have that charge, and it's not water, it actually repels water. So this means that if you put oil on the skin, it's not giving you moisture, it's not giving you hydration. However, if you use a water-based product that can go in, penetrate, give you that hydration, you could use something like an oil to seal that in over the top. Many share that coconut oil is a horrible moisturizer for this reason, but they also talk about how coconut oil is detrimental to your skin, how it can destroy your skin barrier or even cause breakouts. Let's talk about that, but then let's also talk about your moisturizers. If you actually turn and learn your moisturizers and foundations, you're going to see an ingredient come up over and over again. It's Caprylic triglyceride or Caprylic triglyceride. This is actually derived from coconuts. Yes, most moisturizers and foundations that you're using have a derivative of coconut oil in them. Now, this is not the same as coconut oil, but it is similar. It's technically an esterification of coconut oil, but what's interesting is that a lot of these moisturizers that have this caprylic triglyceride are being sold to acne sufferers, and they don't seem to break us acne sufferers out. They seem to be really helpful. They don't seem to damage our skin barrier, and a lot of products that have this ingredient in them seem to help our skin barriers. So then, If this is helpful, why would coconut oil be more damaging? Well, you see, caprylic triglyceride or capric triglyceride isn't taking the full coconut oil. It's taking out some of those specific fatty acids, some of those specific ingredients, some of those specific strands of the braid. In this case, we're talking about capric fatty acids and caprylic fatty acids. And again, capric/caprylic triglycerides are totally safe to use even if you have acne. If you see them in your moisturizers, don't demonize them, don't fear them. They are very helpful. But then where does all this fear-mongering come from, and why is coconut oil still not a good choice? Remember, coconut oil has other things in it as well, specifically lauric acid and oleic acid. Lauric acid has actually been shown to be more antibacterial than benzoyl peroxide, but that's assuming that we can get it away from this backbone, actually get it in its fatty acid form, and that our skin or the bacteria in our skin can produce a special substance to break it down and utilize it. That is lipase, which is an enzyme. And yes, acne bacteria creates it. Our own body creates it. But some of us, just based on genetics or biology, do that better than other people. There's also oleic acid in here, and oleic acid has been linked to damaged skin barriers. And obviously, that's not something that we want, right? I did a video a couple of years ago talking specifically about this, about these breakdowns of fatty acids and kind of how they work in the skin. And again, some people put coconut oil on their skin and love it as a moisturizer, and other people notice that they break out terribly when they do. It's really easy to look at someone and say, oh my god, it worked for her, I need to try this, or oh my god, it destroyed his skin, it won't work for me. But it's important to remember that all of that is subjective, not objective, meaning we're not actually studying this in a proper way, we're just looking at people's experiences and trying to draw conclusions, which is not the best or the most scientific way to go about things. There do seem to be a lot of people who have acne-prone skin who notice that coconut oil breaks them out. And at this time, I would not recommend coconut oil as a moisturizer for this specific reason. However, we don't have double-blind, placebo-controlled studies that are looking at coconut oil or looking at how much of the fatty acid is actually separated out and broken down by this enzyme to help out the skin. And unfortunately, until we have those studies that are being done not just in animals but in humans, it's going to be really, really hard to find out what the comedogenicity of coconut oil is. Again, comedogenicity talks about the acne-causingness of a certain substance or ingredient. Comedo or comedone talks about blackheads or whiteheads, and genicity, think of to generate or where something is generated from. So something that is very comedogenic causes comedones or causes acne. Something that is non-comedogenic, in theory, shouldn't. However, this was a study that was done on rabbit ears, and rabbit ears are very different than human skin. Again, Michelle Wong from Lab Muffin Beauty Science did a great video on this that I would highly recommend you check out, because unfortunately, those studies and those statistics don't necessarily translate to human skin. The other thing that deserves a mention is sustainability. I always thought of coconut oil as being more sustainable than some other oils like mineral oil, and it wasn't until I shared that in a video that someone helped to comment and help me realize that that was probably wrong. You see, there are issues with coconut trees being cut down, with monkeys and other animals losing their homes, and unfortunately, it seems that perhaps this influx of coconut demand is causing a supply and demand problem, meaning that these trees are being cut down where they shouldn't. Additionally, mineral oil is definitely not the most glamorous oil, but it seems that it might be more sustainable based on how it's produced, or that it is a natural byproduct of a petroleum process. This is why I love this community so much, because the viewers of this channel are smart, and I truly appreciate that constructive criticism because it helps me learn, it helps me grow, and it helps us all have these hard conversations that maybe don't have a right or wrong answer, but at least it's something that we can be more aware about. And again, one of my core values is growth, which means taking constructive criticism, taking that education and turning it into action. So I'm really happy to have the opportunity to do that here together. Additionally, I do understand that being able to afford a premium oil like coconut oil is a privileged choice. This thing is going to cost a lot more than just some Crisco vegetable oil or some mineral oil. But all of that taken into consideration, who is this actually for? Again, I do recommend coconut oil, mineral oil, or even vegetable oil as a first cleanser. I think that these are great for removing makeup, and again, I always recommend following that up with a second cleanser, but this does the job. When it comes to leaving this stuff on the face, I do not recommend coconut oil for acne-prone skin types, and overall, unless you really have to, I don't recommend leaving it on as a moisturizer. That being said, if you have been greasing up your face with coconut oil for months or years now, and you love it and it works well for you, continue. You don't need to stop. However, if you haven't already done that and you are considering it, it's not something that I would personally recommend. Go for one of these moisturizers that have this caprylic or capric triglyceride in them instead, because these also have other ingredients in there that are going to be more suitable for your skin. Go ahead and grease up that like button until it turns blue, and if you haven't already subscribed, come join the Butterfly family where we nerd out about skin science and we learn and grow together. Always remember to be beautiful inside and out. If I said anything wrong in this video, please correct me, so again, we can have those conversations and learn together. And if you want to see that other video that I did on coconut oil, you can watch it here, because it shares some information that this video doesn't have. I love you, and I cannot wait to see you in the next video. Love you guys. Bye.